But I was always at a young age. I was always a person that always questioned the other side. If someone tells me go left, I always say, well, why left? Let me check out what's on the right side before I go left. Because and I think as growing up, that starts to transfer into kind of a business relationship, and it starts to transfer kind of the work that we do is like if everyone and all the ducks are running one way, Asthetique, I make sure that we always think, what is the another way to think before we run that way? Just because it's a trend doesn't mean it's going to stay here for too long.
Hey everybody, welcome to this is the first episode of the series New York 100. Today I'm sitting with two very special, talented, brilliant individuals. We're going to be talking about interior design, graphic design, branding. Julian and Alina from Asthetique.
Asthetique, yes.
Asthetique. And would you mind just, I know one of you guys from Russia.
Yes.
Right?
It's definitely me.
Right? And then, so actually, can you just, first off, before I get into both of your backgrounds, would you mind just one-off telling me, a little bit about your personal backgrounds and how you got to, interior design and what have you?
Sure. So, yeah, I can start. I'm originally from Russia. I lived in New York like around 3 years. And I started my career on MTV Russian on the channel MTV, and it was actually like my, favorite job I ever had. It's given me a lot of like for creativity side, how to work with people, how create like new products, how be involved and to open my creativity.
MTV Russia?
MTV, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, in Russia we had MTV too, yeah.
And what were you doing there?
I work in creative department as a designer. So yeah, it was a perfect interesting time, and I really appreciate the people that they give me this opportunity because I was very young and it was actually great. And after all of this, I just loved interior design and hospitality so much. Then I started my own company, and it was actually pretty good. And after this, because of my fiance, I moved to New York and met with Julian.
Right, so you met Julian and his background
and then all downhill from there.
Yeah, yeah.
So. My background, and then I'll get to kind of how we connected and how we started Asthetique. So my background, my father was also an architectural designer. So at a young age, I always saw architecture. It was all throughout our house, very prevalent. And I said I wanted to do architecture. So it's funny because I was looking at my old yearbook. And I was looking through it, and what you had to do in the yearbook for elementary school, you had to write what you wanted to be when you grow up. So I opened up this book the other day, and I realized that I wrote architect. So ever since a kid, I always wanted to do architecture. And then as I was growing up, one key thing that me and my mom used to do is every Saturday we used to go to open houses. I was fascinated with real estate, especially residential real estate. And I said, okay, I guess architecture is the path for me. So funny stories. I believe that as a designer, everything around you, everything in your hemisphere needs to be designed. In the atmosphere, I should say, should be designed. And one thing, I really, really believe that. And so when I met Alina, she was super stylish, girl from Russia. She brought this book with her from Russia. She was looking to start up a company in the States. It was called Poetica. So I was looking through this book. We're in the middle of a restaurant. She had this like really big book. I started going through this book. I was like, it's a pretty cool book. This is nice, well put together. Well articulated, and that's one thing that in my company that I always pride myself with. So I had a construction guy, but I remember sending all of my invoices, all of my proposals was well put together because I believed in that. I just believe that your presentation is everything, and she had the same attributes. And I said, I like your design work, I like what you do, and I wanted to take a step away from construction. I wanted to focus primarily on design. And I said, why don't we start a company?
So what intrigues me, like, both of you started your own company at different phases. So you started your company after like years of experience. Like you said, you worked at
MTV, SS, BBDO, and Restaurant Holding as a creative director.
And then you started your own company.
And start my own company.
And then you said, I'm 18, fresh out with a GED, start my own company, right?
Yes.
So question now, obviously now you two work together, and so Why did you? Okay, I want to start. Why did you decide to start your company at 18?
So one thing that I forgot to mention is that I had my first college internship, first architectural internship at a college level at 16. Through my father helped me get that. So I saw kind of what the landscape was in the architectural world in New York. And, I really saw what it was about. And I realized that, again, you could start to design at any age, really. Just because you're young doesn't mean that you can't design. If you feel like you have a good talent and if you feel that you're able to kind of take that talent and start to do it as a business, that you could do it at any age. I don't think that age stops you. What does kind of the pitfalls of that was that there's a lot of organizational structure that you don't know yet.
Okay.
And that's something that I had to teach myself.
And what was one of the struggles you had to go through? You don't have to say.
No. One of the, if it's fine. One of the struggles is, of course, just organizational and scaling.
Okay.
Right. So what happens? What do you do when you have one client, 2 clients, 3 clients? What do you do as far as hiring? Okay. Who do you bring in first? Do you bring in a drafter? Do you bring a renderer? Do you bring in a manager? So there's all these questions.
And what do you think was the right move for you? Who did you bring in first? I mean, what would have been the right move for you?
So the right move, of course, is to bring in a person that holds many talents, right?
Okay.
A person that could do drafting, that also could help answer calls and speak to clients. Because what happens is, if you're spending too much time doing the work, then you're not out enough getting the work.
Yeah.
So you need to find the balance to that. So I found myself making sure that I brought a person in that understands drafting and understands these things, that could actually speak to clients. And actually, it was a person that me and my father shared from his work and my work. That's how we started, and then I would use her more and more as the years goes on. And yeah.
Okay, wow. So you kind of went 18, but you said you went to the college internship, you said?
At a college, yes.
So you had somewhat of an idea of the New York landscape, right?
Yes.
And then you had years of experience before you...
In different industries, like television, graphic design.
And how do you think that has benefited you, going into starting your own business?
So it just was inevitable. Okay. Because when you work in different companies, see different people, you understand yourself better. You understand what you want to do in your personal, in your company, what you want to achieve, what eventually with who you want to work. And when I start my own company, of course, you should have a lot of courage because it's a lot of problem. It's but it's a lot of fun and a lot of enjoy, and you can open all your creativity and see world and yourself from different sides, and it's really cool. It's probably the best experience.
And when you started your company, I was back in Russia, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And so and again, what was one of the earlier hiccups that now? So the reason I'm asking that is because I'm relatively young, right? And of course, I'm very entrepreneurial, and my friends and family they want me to get a job. They say you lack experience, stuff like that. So there's this constant battle for someone who has a skill set, they might have the knowledge, but society environment tells them, hey, you need to get a job. For someone like you work with a partner now who hasn't went through years of experience at a corporate job, and do you think there is a difference in working with people who have worked at a job for several years for someone who hasn't? Do you think?
I think it's no. It depends from what's here. Okay. Depends from your desire, wishes, how much you desire, your job, everything that you're doing. It depends only from you. It's never depends from the job you had before, experience you had before. If you want something, you really believe, you work so hard to achieve this, you definitely will be there.
And then. So I have one more selfish question, and I want to get to this.
No, please.
Selfish question, right? Sorry, it's my show. I do what I want. So when obviously, in business things get tough. You have drier seasons. So why did you continue to persist and say? I know people around you was like, "Yo, Julian, man, maybe just get a job." Did that ever happen? Did you ever have a point like that where?
So, of course. So that always came from my parents' side. Okay. So my parents were always, my parents are super traditional. They're always like, hey, go the traditional routes and go the traditional routes, it's a safer route. But I was always at a young age, I was always a person that always questioned the other side. If someone tells me go left, I always say, well, why left? Let me check out what's on the right side before I go left. because and I think as growing up, that starts to transfer into kind of a business relationship, and it starts to transfer kind of the work that we do is like, if everyone and all the ducks are running one way, Asthetique, I make sure that we always think, what is the another way to think before we run that way? Just because it's a trend doesn't mean it's going to stay here for too long. So I definitely got people telling me to go one way, but I decided not to. I decided to kind of stay my own path, and I actually started to do fairly well when I was a kid. Because again, I felt like I really believed in it. I had the desire to do it. Of course, there was pitfalls. I had at a young age doing construction work. I had guys walking off projects and just wouldn't show up the next day, and I had to front a bill for $10,000 and try to make things happen. But eventually, you learn from these mistakes. You learn how to, you learn how to have contractual agreements, and you learn how to really stand your ground on certain things. So yes, there's some pitfalls, but those pitfalls make you better in the next day.
Amazing, Nick. I took that in. I don't know if you did. And so, like, everything now is digital. Everything is online. Everything is, Instagram, this, that, and the third. And a lot of companies making online. So why is it important today to focus on your interior? Impression from the people, the mood, the experience. And so how do you convey that, when you're sitting in front of a client and you're having a pitch meeting? How do you convey that experience and is worth investing in?
One of the things that a lot of clients come to us, and one thing I hate is that design becomes a line item and an expense, right? I don't believe that design is an expense or should feel like an expense. It's more of an investment to a company. We're definitely a good tool to help you generate business, but as Zelina said, that there's much more around design that needs to be paid attention to make sure that your business is successful.
Yeah.
And so you say it's an investment. What makes it an investment then?
There's many things that makes it an investment. So one, of course, is the experience side. So there's many things that we design. There's residential, there's hospitality, there's retail, there's office space, etc. So each one of those different areas all have their own characteristics, which makes it an investment. So if it's hospitality, which is one of the core competencies that we do, in hospitality, it's what does the environment look like? What does it feel like? What is the lighting? What is the lighting? How does the lighting make you feel? What are the lighting levels? What are the smells? Have we contained the sound and the volume within the room? If you have 200 people in the room, can you still talk to the person next to you?
Logistics.
Logistics. Yeah. Is there enough space within the aisles? How tight are the seats? If you're sitting next to a person that's next to you, are the tables narrow enough? Are they not narrow enough? How large are the plate sizes? How many plates can fit on your table so that you could maximize how much sales that you have? There's so many different levels and things that you have to think of. So all these things add value to a project. And yes, a lot of people can design. We live in a Pinterest world, so there's a lot of people that could go on and find cool designs. But it takes a true business person within what we do to actually piece that all together and create something and then sell it to a client.
And so both of you guys, just personally, you seem like you had not seem like, obviously you've had several jobs in Moscow, right? Or just like, okay. And then, you've been working since you were 18, and you kind of figured out, the business of design, right? So what advice would you have for maybe the starving artist? Someone they're really skilled, they can do the job, and they want to go into freelance or working on their own, but they're just not able to, keep up the numbers. What would be some advice to someone who has the skill set but is not able to maintain?
And for me, it's very, very simple. Never be scared, and you can do everything. That's all. Always believe in yourself, because you can do much more than you can imagine. Everything you can imagine is real. So it's very important to believe in yourself and in your dream. That's what's driving you from inside.
And then, Alina, so what will be some of the practice after someone has a belief in themselves? What's some practical things they can start doing?
Be professional. Be the best in your industry. Of course, it's like believing in yourself. It's not just believing in yourself without a reason. Try to be the best. Invest in yourself, in your education, in your connections, in everything that you're doing. Try to be the best.
So, and I'll add to that. Coming from New York, and I'm sure you get the same thing in London, is that we're in an age where everyone has social media. Everyone sees the next person with the nice car, the nice job, flashing money, so on and so forth. Everyone is striving to have that. But one of the key things is we've come to a world where everyone wants to be an entrepreneur. And I've been doing it for a pretty long time now. And I've noticed that being an entrepreneur is not just talking about it. It's understanding that being an entrepreneur is not just saying I work when I want to work. It's actually saying that I'm going to work all the time.
Yeah.
It's actually saying that I'm willing to work 24 hours if necessary, because when it's your business, this is your baby, and you want to feed your baby until it can walk on its own, right? And so being an entrepreneur is a very, very strong position to put yourself into, because it's a lot of commitment. So to add to her, it's willing to put the work in. It's really willing to say, like, I'm tired, I don't want to wake up, I'm sick, I don't feel well, and saying, no, I have a goal. And again, believing in yourself, saying, no, I have a goal and I'm going to hit that goal regardless of anything that's around me, because I believe in this. And listen, we go through that all the time. I mean, owning a business is always tough, but right, you have to look past it and say, we're going to be the best, we're going to be number one, and just keep pushing and keep pushing. Even if we're not there yet, in our minds, we say that we could get there one day.
And in your opinions, what does it take to be the best? I mean, how would you define? What do you think is a key quality or trait for an individual to become the best version of themselves?
I think it's very important to be like very professional in what you're doing.
And can you hit on like what do you mean by professional? Like, can you dive deeper into that? Like,
you mean about like restaurant design?
oh, like when you mean professional, like what does that go? What do you mean by that?
Like to do your job, because in part of our job, what we're doing for the clients, we're 100% sure that we do our job like perfectly, the best. We can do we can work like day, night, or like, of course, we always work during the weekend to provide the best result for our client. We never say, no, this is not part of our job or something. No, we have some vacation and rest. No, we always here for our client, ready to help and ready to do the best.
And then, Julian, for you, what do you think is a great attribute for someone, a designer, or just any individual, to be the best version of themselves?
It's a great question. I would say that you have to really live, breathe kind of everything that you do. To think about it all the time, you have to immerse yourself in that atmosphere. Immerse yourself. Let's say if you're in finance, hang out with finance guys that are better than you. Hang out with finance guys that, rather, I shouldn't say better than you, that's the meaning, but hang out with finance guys that maybe have the job that you want, or working with the clients or the sector that you want. If in design, go to museums on the weekend. Do things that are consistently going to inspire you to kind of create that best and kind of morph you into this, I guess, enhanced individual.
Always develop yourself.
Yeah.
Never stop like, oh, so I have like this education, so I'm already like ready designer. No, like, you always should grow.
Like, sum it up, it's like you're a product of your environment, right? You want to always hang out with the right people, hang out with the right crowd, because they're going to uplift you. You don't want to be the smartest person in the room, and it's kind of always true. Yeah. It really is always true. As a designer, I want to go visit the next best designer. I want to speak to them. I want to see what their projects are. I want to walk through their projects. I want to understand what their take on it and what they implemented, because that's going to inspire me to then be better at what I do.